Guys, today we are doing number 6 on the best Seahawks in 2022 ranking list, and now we're getting to the really good stuff. We're starting to get to the players where it's almost impossible to say anything in the negative. It's almost impossible to take anything away from them because they were so good and so valuable, it feels kind of dirty to even really say anything bad about these guys, because without them, we're definitely not in the playoffs. Without them, we're definitely not nearly as good of a team, and they took so little off the table while putting so much on it that it's pretty unimpeachable. And I don't think I'm going to hear much negativity about any of the players coming up, starting today with this particular player who came into Seattle with some hype, but ended up exceeding just about everybody's expectations. He established his expectations at one level at his previous stay in the NFL, but as soon as he got to Seattle, basically from day one, his production level went way up here. And he just seemed like a different player with a different ceiling, different abilities, and he brought something to this team that nobody else on this roster could have even come close to. So here we go with number 6. Enjoy. Number 6 on the list will be Uchenna Nwosu, and we're getting to the really good stuff now. We're getting to the guys who were just unimpeachably really good throughout 2022. So Nwosu, as you can see on screen, at one point this season actually led the entire NFL in pressures. After 7 games, he was number 1, stood alone with 31. Now, that's according to Next Gen Stats. I believe that Next Gen Stats is far too kind when they hand out QB pressures, but they're being kind to every player in the league. And despite that, Nwosu is number 1. So Uchenna Nwosu, on a pass rush that overall really struggled to get pressure, was loading up on the pressures. And imagine where we would have been without him. And part of the reason why he's so high on this list has to be how he exceeded expectations over the course of the 2022 season. When he came in here from the Los Angeles Chargers, it kind of felt like we were getting a decent rotational piece, maybe a decent starter, but we weren't expecting anything special, I don't think. His career high before this year was 5 sacks. He was a player who occasionally showed up and had a big game, but would often kind of disappear. I don't know if anybody really thought Nwosu was going to be here much longer than the 2-year contract we gave him. At the time, I think that the 2-year, $20 million deal we gave him was considered to be approximately fair. Some people would have argued it was maybe even a slight overpay. But when the season started, pretty much immediately, Nwosu made it clear that not only was he going to live up to that contract, he was going to exceed it and get to a point now where going into 2023, I kind of want to lock him up. Because this is a player who has found himself in his, I believe, 5th NFL season. And he's still relatively young. He's only 26 years old now. And I believe he could even get a little bit better. And even if he doesn't, we are talking about a clear-cut Tier 2 pass rusher in this league, in my opinion. Now, Nwosu definitely played better earlier in the season. I think we wore him down as the year went on because we played him too much. That's our fault. That's not on him. If we go into 2023 focused on building a little bit of depth at edge and allowing Nwosu to play maybe 7 to 10 fewer snaps a game, I believe he could be consistently great throughout the year, and he might turn his 10-sack season into a 12 or 13-sack season, despite playing a little bit less. At the very least, I believe he will be more efficient as a pass rusher. But even in the second half of the year, he was really good. He wasn't leading the league in pressures by the time the season ended, but he still had some really good games, really good moments. He was definitely our best player on defense in the playoff game. So I think Nwosu earns his position as number 6 on the list. Another thing that really characterizes Uchenna Nwosu this year would be his all-around game. As you can see, if you go to PFF, excuse me, you can see that his PFF grade is consistent across both areas of the game. His run defense grade, over 71, pass rush grade, over 73. So this is a well-rounded player who gives you something positive, a pretty significant positive in both facets of his position. So Uchenna Nwosu, even though I do think he lost a little bit of effectiveness as this year went on, At no point did he ever become a bad player or, not a very valuable player. He was always one of our best defensive players on the field, and I'm really excited to have him around for at least one more year. Personally, I'm hoping we can make him part of this team for the next several years. We've seen underappreciated, underpaid pass rushers go through Seattle in the last decade. Guys like Cliff Averill and Michael Bennett came in here. People in the NFL didn't think that much of them. They didn't get a ton of money. They didn't get a ton of press, but they were huge parts of a team that made Super Bowl runs. I feel like Uchenna Nwosu could be like that. He's a well-rounded player. You never have to take him off the field. You never have to take him off the field because, oh, it's 3rd and 2. They're going to run the ball. Get him off the field. No, leave him on the field. He can stop the run. It's never, oh, it's 3rd and 18. They're going to throw the ball. Get him out of there and get somebody who can rush the passer out there. He can rush the passer. His 9.5 or 10 sacks, depending on how you count this year, speak for itself. And I think that Uchenna Nwosu could be part of an elite defense, like a starter on an elite defense. I am looking at him in much the same way we once looked at Cliff Averill and Michael Bennett. Maybe not quite as good as those two guys, but the same basic idea. A pass rusher who is not getting all the hype in the world, but a pass rusher who is good, who is valuable, and is going to be a big part of a great defense if you can just build it around him. So overall this year, Nwosu may have been our wire-to-wire, week 1 to week 18, or plus playoffs, best defensive player. Guys like Tariq Woolen took a couple weeks to come on. Guys like Ryan Neal missed some games and wasn't playing initially very much. So Nwosu was probably wire-to-wire our best player on defense, and on a defense that had a lot of players that just weren't very good, that had problems, that weren't really standing out. He pretty consistently stood out. And I'm really excited to see where this goes. But for the 2022 season, I can say that he was the 6th best Seahawk. I'm hoping it can go to an even better place from here. But honestly, I got nothing really bad to say about the guy. I can't think of a game where he stood out to me as playing poorly. I can't think of a moment where I thought he really messed up and really cost us. If there were a couple of those moments, I don't really remember them because there were so many positive ones to balance it out. So, yeah, we're getting to that part of the list where it's just tough to say anything negative. Nwosu was awesome all year, and I can't wait to see where this goes. Again, he's only 26. He absolutely could go up even a little bit, which is why I would actually like to try to extend him now. Hope that works out. But you look at what's going on at the edge position for the Seahawks team, where obviously we need more consistent pass rush. It seems very clear to me that Uchenna Nwosu can be a big part of that. He might even be able to be your top edge rusher on a top defense. If you can build the depth behind him, guys like Boye Mafe coming along, guys like Darrell Taylor maybe becoming a little more consistent at the very least as a pass rusher, maybe Alton Robinson makes a comeback, you've got a legitimate NFL pass rush. Just give him a little more rest, and I believe things will work out. So let me know what you guys think. Number 6. Tomorrow we will be doing number 5. But Uchenna Nwosu, my number 6 on the best players on the Seahawks in 2022. See y'all later.